Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Verbal Ramblers podcast. I am John Hatton, to be precise. We have, just sitting to my left, the lovely John Crick.
Howdy.
And just across from me, just a little ways away, Mr. Chris Cook.
2 arm legs.
Indeed. So, gentlemen, what are we going to be speaking on today?
There's some very important issues to talk about.
Well, yeah, because now obviously
Tarragon is one of them. That'll be coming up later in my fucking angry rant.
Yeah, so don't go anywhere, folks. No, we're going to talk about the Labour Party, because we talk about Trump a lot, as everyone does. As we should, but we shouldn't ignore our own domestic politics as well. So
indeed, things are a mess on our very doorstep.
So this week, what happened?
Well, let's just say that Trump is boycotting the media, so we should boycott Trump.
Oh, are we classing ourselves as the media? The fake news media?
The fake news media. We're not fake news, John. We're anything
woo peddlers, to use a German phrase.
How many hits do you have to have before you're classified as the media?
I think you just need to be pushing information.
We are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake.
So Labour lost Copeland, which they haven't lost since
1930. Was it 35?
1935.
Pre-Second World War. They kept Stoke though, so screw you, nuttall.
It's not the way that any politician should behave. It hasn't been good news for the party.
Yeah, there seems to be, I don't know about media biased, but obviously it's probably bigger news that they lost Copeland. Yeah, they did beat Paul Nuttall, which is obviously never a bad thing.
Did they though, or did the dirt that came out on him and all that stuff do it?
Well, let's make clear from the outset that they had a 36% turnout.
Yeah, very low.
I think it was 5,000 compared to Paul Nuttall's 3,000.
Really?
Yeah. So
what? In Stoke?
In Stoke, yeah.
Stoke Central.
36%.
It's not all of Stoke-on-Trent, is it? It's Stoke Central, technically, that we're talking about.
What I was glad about is that you could put their main man up to win Stoke, and he lost.
Yeah, well, it's...
By all accounts, that's...
Yeah, but it's the Brexit... We'll discuss why, but it's a really high Brexit vote as well, so they thought it'd be quite a safe place.
85% leave.
Now, here's the thing. I imagine the argument you're going to make, John, is it because of his Hillsborough gaffe that cost him the...
among other things.
Other things. But
I think
that
and where he was living at the time as well.
I think it's more telling that with an area that was so passionate over Brexit, only 36% of the population bothered to show up when they could vote in Paul Nuttall, who's UKIP, who represents the Leave vote. So they've got, a bigger percentage showing up for the vote than for that. So I think that was quite telling. So I think it's just an apathy, which is interesting because UKIP are supposed to be the response to the apathy, and now they're
no
part
one
of
gives
it.
a shit.
Well, they're part of it, aren't they?
It is telling. Do you know what I think? And I hark on about this every week, but people are very stupid.
People like Coldplay and voted for the Nazis. You can't trust people, Jeremy.
If you give them two options, leave, remain, that's something they can get on board with. That's simple. I want less immigration, I'll vote leave. But if you give them like parties and I've got to look at their policies, oh my god, it's too much to learn, mate, I ain't got time.
Or worse, they don't learn and vote anyway, which has always made me angry. Like, you can ask a very simple political question to most people and they won't know the answer. Like, they won't know who's in the cabinet. They won't know who the prime minister even is.
Or what a cabinet is.
Or what a cabinet is. Or ask what the shadow cabinet is. Most people probably don't know, and it's a worry.
It's a chapter in Harry Potter, I think. It might be. I've never... That's not actually, no. I know I digress. I have seen Harry Potter, but I've fallen asleep through nearly every single one of them.
I enjoyed Harry Potter. I enjoyed it.
It's just... all power to her. Great and all that, getting kids into wizards. But at the same time, I think that it's one of those things where, you meet someone, you say, oh, I play board games. And they go, I play board games. They go, what do you play? And they go, Monopoly.
Monopoly, yeah.
And you think...
Shun the non-believer! Shun!
It's so shallow. It's like getting a skull cap, running into a synagogue and then telling everyone you're a Jew. It's such a tiny amount of the whole thing. And I always find that with J.K. Rowling, it's good. But then if you compare it to Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman, Stephen King. The level of writing I don't think compares.
She's a massive Labourite as well, so
She is.
Is she?
there you go.
She is, yeah.
I'm trying to bring it back to...
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, let's discuss briefly the whole thing about celebrities getting attacked or authors getting attacked for having a political opinion. It's really interesting that Barry, who used to shit himself and cleans windows, is allowed to have a vote on whether we leave the UK. It rings up LBC to talk to Katie Hopkins, and that's fine. And then a distinguished author who's clearly an intelligent person to put together the work she's done and the charity work that she's done, and she's supposed to just shut up and write books.
Yeah, it's like they're not part of democracy.
Yeah. She should just make like a modern day Animal Farm. That's what she should do.
Well, she's not us anymore. She's them, isn't she? She's the other people, the successful people.
It's right. Why not use your platform to promote your political views?
No, I was being cynical. You're absolutely right. But it just can come across as a little contrived or convoluted sometimes because it's such rich white people.
I think it is in normal circumstances. 8 years ago, or Romney, Obama. If you're going to make statements, yeah, like shut up. It doesn't matter. There's not so much between it. But now, when the press has been attacked to the extent it has, I think now it is more justified than ever.
If you're going to tell a celebrity, a Hollywood actor, they're a role model, and they're going to be invaded by the press if they've got coke addictions and prostitutes or extramarital activities, then if you're going to put them on that pedestal, then if they want to speak out against bigotry, sexism, xenophobia, whatever it is, then they've got every right to, haven't they?
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then just disagree with it. It's just a peculiar thing where we need to make sure we filter things to the middle of the road so we don't offend either side.
Yeah. Some of them pay their taxes, you know.
Verbal Ramblers. That was interesting. That was not interesting. I haven't got a faintest idea what you mean.
John, you have some thoughts about Labour that we were getting to the crux of the issue.
Yeah.
What's the bigger deal, John? That
What's
they
the big
lost
deal,
Copeland
mate?
or they kept Stoke?
That they lost Copeland. My opinion is that because they lost Copeland. Because I think it speaks more to UKIP's failures and Paul Nuttall's gaffes than it did to Labour winning over anyone's hearts. Because with 36% of people voting, nobody's hearts were won in Stoke Central. So there's my thoughts on that. But just so much wider than that, I've developed a political opinion over the years, and it's more and more something that I'd be willing to share with others as it solidifies. And I've felt, especially during the course of this podcast, that I've learned a lot about politics, and I've had to look into it more, mostly just on a personal level because I feel I should. But Labour at the moment is such a mess, and it's something that I would love to actually be able to vote for. And I've developed an opinion definitely on Corbyn. I think he's a very impressive man, but not a leader of men, not a leader of people. Excuse me.
I was thinking the other day that Jeremy Corbyn is like you want to be in the foxhole with him, and then you see the Conservatives stick their head above, and then you look down and the guy's doing a crossword. It just seems, or he's like making a cup of tea, as opposed to taking shots. Yeah, I remember the clip I sent you where he was fleeing, he was avoiding a journalist's questions, and he ran away and he hid behind a glass door.
I do like him as a man though, and I'd love for him to be a realistic leader, but he's not. He's, in a weird way, he's too morally righteous.
Yeah.
He's not dirty enough.
He's not, but he's very idealistic and a socialist, and that's not actually... Like the whole of the Labour Party doesn't even agree with his ethos. So no matter how good a leader he was, half his own party aren't interested in being led by him.
David Miliband is rumoured to be coming back. And if he gets in control, he'll shift them back to the centre again.
Yeah. If he was doing really well in the polls, then I'd say, Jez we can. But, which is terrible, isn't it? Who thought of that?
Not a simpleton.
That's the reason it's not. See, if they come out with something better, it'd be leading.
A tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a curvature of silk and then laid him by the fireside with honey and some milk. Now she stroked his pretty skin, and then she kissed him and held him tight But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me. Heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Right?
So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. Labour Party 2 years ago, after being crushed by the Tories and lurching to the left with Corbyn and slowly going down in the polls, it's kind of dawned on me that the election in America, the Democratic Party are going through the same thing, where they've just lost the House, the Senate, they haven't lost it, but they haven't got control of anything. And they've just elected a new chair to the DNC, and they've gone for, they had Keith Ellison and Tom Perez, and Keith Ellison is Corbyn, basically. Bernie Sanders wanted him, blah, blah, blah. And Tom Perez is the, like, David Miliband type, and they've gone, and they just elected David Miliband. So I wondered if they've done a good thing, rather than going down that left-wing socialist rabbit hole that hasn't gone well for Labour in our country.
The trouble is the next election is either you're going to, depending on Trump's success, you're either going to want to put someone up there who is as much as normal as possible, someone who is centrist, someone who is a trained politician, or you need Kanye West. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
It's either going to have to.
Isn't that sad though?
Well, this is the fork in the road. This is the thing with Trump. He's either a cyst or a cancer. It's one of the two, isn't it? Either do a bit of keyhole or we're all fucked.
But the difference, the advantage they've got is bashing Trump for as long as he holds on, which I've publicly said I've placed a bet on him going this year. Not a big bet, but
I shouldn't have opened the window. That's a lesson. Carry on, John.
So yeah, for as long as Trump's in power, it's so easy to campaign against him and to unite the whole of the left and some of the right against him. Yeah. It's going to be easy. But we didn't really have that against Cameron, although he did put his knob in a pig, which we have mentioned on this podcast before, but it's worth stating again because it's very important.
It is important to know that,
And Theresa May, who is kind of hard to bash.
I beg to differ.
Really?
I could.
You could bash one out?
That's not where I was going. Get your mind out of the gutter, John. But
I don't know what's going on.
I could take a couple of digs. I could take a couple of digs. I'll be honest.
What? Feel free.
Yeah, please do.
Well, I mean, there was a quote, and just after, just sort of post Brexit, that she basically was going to put all her faith in God, and that's how we were going to get out of this big situation we're in.
Yes, you'd also say that we were going to have a red, white, and blue.
The red, white, and blue Brexit, of course. Yes, and Brexit means Brexit, but I just remember thinking that shouldn't be. Is that something that a politician should really?
Never. But here's the thing: it's not that controversial thing to say, which makes me so angry because every Republican that's ever has run on a platform of God. Even Trump, for the last year, has pretended to be a Christian when he is actually the incarnation of the Antichrist. Read the Bible, read what the Antichrist is. This guy, if you believe in that horse shit, he is that.
No offence to the four horsemen, by the way, just in case.
It's crazy that is not a controversial thing to say, and actually a lot of people like it. It's like, I don't want someone to hear a voice in their head to dictate their policies.
I think it's slightly different though. I think it's the public split between, you've got older generations, a dying percentage of, who respond well to something like that, or you've got the rest of the population who don't care. You know, they don't. Most people don't care because we have this benign vaccine of religion, don't we? Because we have christenings, whether you go to church for the rest of your youth, people still get christened, and people go out of their way to get married in churches and have hymns when they're not religious and things. So people aren't, when it comes to Christianity, we have this benign vaccination to it, which is why I think it goes unchecked.
But it made me angry. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but I remember thinking, you're a politician. Is that something that should be coming out of your mouth? Why does it? I'm asking myself this question. Why does it make me so angry? I suppose it's my own experience of religion, really.
But we've come full circle here then, so it's okay for a Hollywood celebrity to stand and receive an award for a fictitious project, but it's not okay for the Prime Minister to use her podium to say that God will get us out of the EU.
So here's my retort.
Bearing in mind you're being asked this by the world's biggest atheist.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I'll take that into full account. She's speaking to the press, so she's speaking as a politician, not as Teresa from down the pub. She's speaking as a politician. Her concern should be politics. She shouldn't be getting into such dangerous... infamously, Tony Blair once was asked a question about religion in one of his interviews, and Mandelson poked his head around the corner and said, "Sorry, we don't do God." Maybe that wasn't all a bad thing.
You knew Christ.
No, shit, nigga owes me $12.
Theresa May wants to go and spend $2,000 on a pair of trousers or whatever it was. I defend her right to do that, but she has a political identity that she was using when she had that interview.
Yeah.
She wasn't just Theresa, she was talking as Mrs. May, the Prime Minister.
Yeah. See, ultimately I do agree with you in the context, because also you're excluding other faiths anyway, because I understand that Allah is God, obviously, as its literal meaning,
yes.
But she is talking about the Christian God, and she's not talking about the Buddhist gods. You should just, I think, a politician is always trying to be middle of the road on everything else, and yet they jump on the bandwagon when it comes to God to try and secure a particular
Or jump off the bandwagon, as the case may be, because you could argue here, Tony Blair's relationship with religion was detrimental to his political career.
It was
Whereas in America, that George Bush's relationship with God was absolutely integral to his term.
When you turn your heart and your life over to Christ, when you accept Christ as a Savior, it changes your heart, it changes your life.
What's interesting about the whole Islamic thing, since Trump's been in power, hasn't been any major American attacks from radical Islamic terrorism, but there has been numerous white nationalists shooting foreigners.
Right.
And there was one in Kansas just this week, and the guy shot 2 Indians and said, "Get out of my country." And there was a 24-year-old hero guy who chased him and got shot. So, but there's been not a peep about anything from Trump.
Trump said nothing, yeah.
He said nothing, but what sickens me, I can feel it, it's like the craving. He's waiting. Oh, when that happens, I'm so ready to go full pelt anti-Islamic.
Here's the thing. Everyone knows about the 1940s, and no one knows about the 1930s. I'm not saying no one. As a percentage.
They don't know what led to it all.
No, and luckily for this purpose of this conversation, the only part of college that I actually managed to do was the Russian Revolution. Through the 6 months I managed to make it through college. That's what we studied. And so we went all the way from bourgeois and proletariat revolution all the way up through the 30s. And so you realise that it's all about steps. So when Hitler, and I know when you mention Hitler you lose the argument, but he is the archetypal dictator. Yeah. It's because it's a perfect system of doing it. If you're watching World War II in colour, it really isn't that different to now. Just because we've got smartphones and shit, it's 5 minutes ago. What year were you born? 86?
86.
86. We were born 40 years after the end of the Second World War, and we're all 30 now. So 10 years from now, if you take that backwards, that's the end of the Second World War.
Yeah.
So it's minutes ago. So people don't see the steps because he was democratically elected. And then you start to attack the media, you start to attack the main party that's against you. And so you start to subvert people, and you get to the people where they're riled up. And so what he's able to do now is actually get a certain percentage of the population, albeit not the biggest, and he's just got this going around in their heads. They can't trust anything. All these apps, all these things that come up on Facebook, all the stuff that's in your banks and in your Weatherspoons and all this stuff, all of it's just fake. He's the man who has the truth.
I worry that when Trump got, because as I said, I'm socially somewhat progressionist. I worried that when Trump got elected, that there was a social step backwards.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was worried about it, and now it's just, I mean, it just is there. A blind man could see it.
Yeah, I'd say that was the understatement of the century, because in every social movement you could say they're taking a step back. The problem is there are political correctness is annoying, and there are some people on the very far left who go too far with it, and they're the ones they're the ones with the megaphones, and they're the ones everyone sees because it's newsworthy and it's interesting. So there's a huge fight back against political correctness, but really it's a fight back against 1% on the left saying this bullshit.
Which is always the extremes that are the loudest.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm very grateful for political correctness, of course. It's just it can be portrayed in the media as something that is completely insane.
John's Angry Rants.
So today I want to talk to you kids about tarragon. Tarragon is a herb that tastes kind of vaguely licoricey that today I realised I hate. Today I was making bayonnaise sauce for my wife because she really enjoys steak with bayonnaise sauce, so I thought I'd be a good husband and home make some bayonnaise sauce. Can I tell you, it's not worth doing. No matter what you think you're going to get out of it, it's not worth it. It was a difficult, complicated, multi-step recipe, and the result was thankless. And I blame principally tarragon for the entire debacle. So, tarragon, avoid.
Wow, good to know.
Wow.
It's only a sauce as well. You don't want a sauce to be too complex, do you?
Mate, you have to get some egg yolk and put them in a bowl, and then put the bowl over some boiling water and keep stirring it, and then add vinegar and bring some butter to the boil while you're doing it, and then then the tarragon gets involved and the parsley.
Tarragon of virtue.
See, it's really nice you're putting that effort in, John. The issue is that you just listed about 10 fucking ingredients that in the shop, 2 rows away from where you were getting all this stuff from, they have the sauce.
Yeah, but where's the thought in that? Where's the love?
Is it?
I was ill for Valentine's Day. I wasn't very well.
Is it love or acceptance? Is it love or acceptance, John?
It's both. Love is acceptance.
Love is acceptance. Yeah, I suppose. Yes. That's fair enough, John.
That's fair enough, yeah.
A thankless job afterwards. Like, what an underwhelming result.
John's Angry Rants.
We are on Facebook now, because we're semi-pro, season 2.
Yeah, the internet's really up and coming. So.
Yeah, we decided to jump on that bandwagon. So we're on Facebook, Verbal Ramblers, and on Twitter, @VerbalRambler. Email, verbalramblers@gmail.com. So if you want to troll us or anything you want us to look into, that would be good.
Yes, get your best men on the case.
Yeah, #Baker Street Irregulars.
We have had an interaction this week.
We have had an interaction, yeah, actually. Had an old school friend get in touch.
Yes, Alge, our wonderful friend who's updated us on the Chewit fiasco. So they're now 35p. Alistair would like to know when the Chew-pocalypse happened for you, and you know.
I don't remember when it happened. I think I've largely blocked it out.
Blocked it out, yeah.
I think that's what happens when real trauma occurs.
This is too fucked up for me even to think about.
You just block it out. But in all seriousness, I remember talking to a friend about it some years since, because they noticed the self-same thing. But I've no idea when the original event happened. I would guess early 90s, very early 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking more Spice Girls, you know.
No.
Before that.
So it's pre-puberty.
Yes.
Yeah, that can understand why it's left you so damaged.
I was an overweight kid.
Wow. And we also have some happy jam news.
Yes.
We don't know what it is yet.
We don't know what it is yet, but we will cleverly edit it in. And I am producer this week, so nothing can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
I might make it a little bit more favourable to myself. I'm not sure yet.
Good luck editing out all the
Yeah, thanks, John. I'll just keep that in to make it look like a twat.
Oh, you mother.
Happy Jam News.
Hi everyone. This is Happy Jam News. I've missed you guys, and I know there's a lot of horrifying things going on in the world right now, so everyone could use an uplifting story. This one I actually got from John Crick, so it could be called Happy Jam News. So I recently read a story about an actor in LA, Chris Salvatore, inviting his 89-year-old neighbor, Norma Cook, to come and live with him when she stopped her leukemia treatment in the autumn, and she lived out her final months with him. They met 4 years ago because they were neighbors. They were she lived in a flat across from his, and they would wave to each other and chit-chat, and when they started getting together, they became really close friends, almost, family. She called him the grandson I never had, and so they were very supportive of each other. They were besties, and he helped raise $30,000 for her medical expenses when she was diagnosed with leukemia 10 years ago, and that was all before this really beautiful, gracious gesture of inviting her to come live with him, and he was her carer until she died. So I thought that was incredibly sweet and heartwarming and touching, and such a great story of human compassion and the way we can connect with one another across demographics, across age and race and all of this. It's, our hearts are so similar to one another, really, when you strip everything else away. So that's what's important. It's connecting. So that's my Happy Jam News. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Happy Jam News.
Say, I put some political bets on, right?
What did you do?
Well, last week I won on Michael Flynn resigning or being sacked. And then the day after he got resigned or sacked, because I saw a story on Twitter, it was bubbling, but the odds were still 25-1.
Yeah,
so I
good
thought,
odds.
3-1, whack it on there, 80 quid. Boom, brilliant. So I thought I'll withdraw 50. I'm not a gambler, by the way, but
he says gambling.
Yeah, I am a gambler.
Gamblers lose. You're not losing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've
What could
lost
go wrong?
overall in my life, but I don't do it a lot anyway. But I thought these odds were enticing, and then there was some more. So Trump to be impeached or resign, 5-1, or was it that 5-1 this year? So I thought,
that's crazy.
I'm going for those odds because I really think I can't see it. And here's another one, 5-1 that the House and the Senate are going to officially accuse him of Russian interference.
Right.
So just start an investigation. That was 5-1. And there's been murmurs of this, and it's going to happen.
To put that into context with a few odds that I saw, being banned from Twitter was 50-1, which I was trying to check whether that was, because I think that'd have to be his personal account, not POTUS. To print his face on a currency to mint himself was 100-1, and I thought, of course he will. If he can, of course he will. So once again, as I say, I know I'm still getting over not being a millionaire through Corbyn and Trump, but there might still be hope there on a 100-1 bet, because that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For him to get divorced and remarried in his term was 16-1.
That's not long odds, is it?
No.
That's a testament to how.
But the key,
mental.
The tax returns. The tax returns is like splitting of the atom. You get the tax returns, he's done. You get the tax returns, he could end up in Wabash on lockup, and I'll be binging on him on Netflix. So you get hold of that tax return. It's just this. It's the holy grail.
They're not going to, are they though? Because it's confidential information.
Yeah, because the thing that we've learned through
fair
through
enough.
Madden and Snowden and Julian Assange and every Russian under 35 and every Chinaman under 80 is
But that's a difficult thing to get hold of, though.
Yeah, but there's people leaking from the White House every day. A thing come out tonight. Sean Spicer started checking people's phones, his own staff checking their phones. Because so much has been leaked, and then he said to all the people, don't tell anyone, don't leak that I'm checking your phones, and then that got leaked to the press. So the thing, it's like there's so many holes in this boat. There's so many people willing to leak.
Do you know what I think? Going back to the Hitler comparison, I think I'm quite hopeful because one, as I say, everyone's trying to, a lot of people, even his friends are trying to bring him down, but also he's so open. You can read him like a book. He won't go to the press.
White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes, he won't go to it. And at first I thought, oh, it's because he's war against the media. Then I thought, no, it's because he can't sit there as the president and have people poke fun at him. He'd get out an automatic rifle and gun everyone down. Like he wouldn't be able to handle that, would he? So, and that's what it is, because he's such a narcissist that he can't handle it. But this attack on the media, I just think that he's come too early. With the way that the world is, John, I think that with the way the world is, if he come 20, 30 years when idiocracy becomes more and more of a reality, I think that he would have a lot more traction, a lot easier. But he's not sly and clever enough in that Hitler way of doing things under the radar. He's not
covered his tracks.
Not at all. So he's just, as I said before, resist, resist, resist. That's all you've got to do. Everyone just needs to resist and he'll just cave in under it. I mean, maybe it might even get to the point where there's so many people putting such bad things on him, and because all he cares about is being loved, that he'll think that by resigning is a better move for his narcissistic personality than it is to stay on in office and have power, but no one love you. Because he doesn't want power, he wants to be loved.
Yeah. And this Russian thing, going back to that, every time a big story's come out with his ties to Russia, he's attacked the media almost instantly after. So there's a real paranoia brewing about that specific thing. So,
but there's one thing that Americans like less than communists. It's traitors who mix with communists, and that's what he is. And he was a businessman, and there was no problem with his Russian dealings. I know he denies them. I'm not actually aware that he has any Russian dealings, but what I've learned with Trump is whatever he says, think the opposite. So I imagine he's got Russian dealings.
Yeah, he did admit to having a relationship with Putin, didn't he?
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin, a conversational relationship, or anything that you feel you have sway or influence over his government?
I do have a relationship, and I can tell you that he's very interested in what we're doing here today. He's probably very interested in what you and I are saying today, and I'm sure he's going to be seeing it in some form. But I do have a relationship with him.
So, but once he running for president, and then you've got this involvement now, that's treason. Because everyone knows, I've been banging on about it for years. I know that Islamic State is a problem, but it's not a superpower with thousands of atomic weapons and an average to good army that wants all of Eastern Europe back. They're not the same things, are they? And so the number one adversary to Russia is America. And if the President of the United States has a relationship with the Russian president, then if that was 40 years ago, they want to stick him in the electric chair. So
yeah, Chris Hayes said something on Twitter this week that kind of made me think. He said he had a nightmare about this all brewing up to Trump having a standoff to prove he's strong, having a full standoff with Putin as an ultimate proof that he hasn't got any connections to him. And then obviously that's the start of the end. If Russia and America properly go at it, that's not going to last long.
Well, the issue there you have is that there are several occasions that I won't list, but you can look up, where we've nearly had a thermonuclear war by accident. Everything from miscommunicated radar to an American plane that lost navigation and entered the USSR, to even more publicly known things like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Every single, I know it's not a nice thought, it might be the most miserable thing I've ever said, but every single location of any significance is already targeted and programmed and ready to go. You only have to press a button. It's not like you've got to sit there with a map and aim. So that's just a terrifying prospect. But as I say, hopefully, I just think that he'll just be a benign tumour that the world can get rid of.
Yeah, make some money on it. Put some bets on. No,
but if I can have a bit of an angry rant, the thing that pisses me off more than anything to the core is the way that the Western world is used diplomacy and interaction in order to get ourselves to the point where we're not killing one another for the first time in how long? 1,000 years? And we're all getting along and prospering together. And he's just taken, because he's such an idiot, he's just has no concept of any of it. So he's just ringing up Australia and hanging up on them, and ringing Taiwan when he's not supposed to. And there's no, it's crazy. It's a ball in the china shop.
It's a war. It's an intellectual war. That's what they'll be calling it in 50 years because...
Which will be ironic because he's thick as shit. So, John, we all know why we're here.
My favourite time of the week.
It is Black Belt on Bullshit. I'm going to be a little bit cliche this week and give it your good old-fashioned, good favourite of ours, Nigel Farage.
Oh, yes.
So,
one of our favourite twats.
Yeah. Run AC.
It's funny. Our real friends in the world speak English, have common law, and stand by us in times of crisis.
Firstly, where to start? He's like a sickness. I tried to find a list. I tried to do some research, and I could find a list of countries that do speak English, but not a list of ones that couldn't. And I couldn't be bothered to use deduction to figure it out. But rest assured, there's plenty. I think they said there's 56 independent nation states on Earth, which is 25% that have English as a speaking language. But regardless, so that's the first bullshit. And then secondly, where he says...
What is happening across Europe is people are rejecting this form of supranational government. They're rejecting the idea of being governed by a bunch of unelected old men in Brussels.
I was thinking, was he going to say lords instead? Because it's really peculiar the way that he doesn't ever bash on about that at all, unless they're looking at legislation, the law when it comes to Brexit. And they are elected. The people that they appoint within aren't elected, but they're appointed the same way that the government appoints civil servants. I mean, we have to vote in every single civil servant. But that's old ground anyway. And what was the last thing?
2016 was the year that the nation-state democracy made a comeback against the globalists and those who would wish to destroy everything that we have ever been.
Oh,
that's a Trumpian statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so crazy. I made this point to my dad the other day. I got into an argument with my dad, and I said to him that he was born in 1946, and now we're in 2016, 70 years old. All of that time has been in peace. All of it. He hasn't had to go and fight in a single conflict in all that time, and he lived in all that peace because of globalisation, because of commerce, because it's a lot harder to have a war with a country if you're doing business with them, because then you can't support your war machine. That's why it's always the countries where you build these barriers between that become problems like Russia. So it's just a triple bullshit. That was my little rant there. What do you think?
I agree, and you've made me want to talk about some bullshit, but I haven't got time. Boomers, mate. And they have the audacity, the way they talk about millennials, Gen Xers, the way they talk about us. And millennials, there's plenty of things to get annoyed about or whatever, but they have no idea how the boom they've had in their lives.
Yeah, entirely.
You have got away with so much. You have not, like, interest rates when you were starting a family were 17%. You could save money. You could have the shittest job you could find and get a mortgage for a house, and then you could sell that for double 10 years later. You have to have a really good job before you can afford a half-decent house, really. You have to do well for yourself, and you're probably looking into your 30s before you get your first one. Absolutely. On average.
Yeah, through all that time, no war, no conflict, no nothing. I know there was a few exceptions like the
Falklands,
Falklands and stuff. Yeah, but we weren't in Vietnam.
No. We know you dodged the draft 5 times, though, didn't we?
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, why don't we wrap it up?
Farewell for another week, people.
Tarragon.
Bad.
Yeah. So what's the good?
David Miliband.
David Miliband's the good. Oh, Jesus,
this
John.
That's how bad it's got.
That's how bad it's got. That's not an outro.
No, you're right.
I'm going to do an outro. I thought with this season, gentlemen, we're supposed to be more professional now. We've made 12 episodes. We know what's what. I just like to say that this episode is actually recorded on a Pixel. We're giving that a go because, as I said earlier, I'm taking over production this week.
Yeah, guest producer.
Guest producer.
If he does well, you can do it every week.
Yeah, thanks, John.
It will be, but it's good to have I'm sure it'll be similar vibe, but you'll have your own take on it, and you'll leave the stupid shit that I say that I would normally take out, and you'll probably edit your one more carefully, and John will just be edited the same.
Exactly.
John will be the constant In a world of chaos. You're Switzerland.
Yeah.
You hoard Jewish gold.
Cook's controversial comment.
We've never rambled like so much.
Yeah.
That was a rambling.
This is for people with ADHD mostly, I think.
This was a very rambling episode. Good luck editing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Cheers, Steph.
Yeah.
My oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.